Hi everyone, my name is May Park. Welcome to another video tutorial in my blog and YouTube channel. Today I'm going to show you how to color your floral images using Mijello Mission Gold Watercolor set. This video is part of Altenew May 2017 release blog hub celebrating a new release of stamps, dyes, and embossing powders. Make sure to check out my blog for more details and leave a comment on my blog hub post for a chance to win a $30 gift certificate to Altenew online store. I'm going to give you a quick preview of Altenew May release products. If you don't want to watch, feel free to skip this part to jump on the card making process. Now I'm going to turn on some music while I'm showing you the new products, and I'll be back soon. I designed several stamp sets for Altenew May release, including 3 mini stamp sets and 3 large stamp sets. Before I start, I'm going to show you how I store my stamp set. I'm cutting down the top of my stamp packaging using Timo's paper trimmer. That way I don't need to buy any extra stamp sleeve for storage and label the stamp set name. I can easily pull out my stamp set out of the original packaging while I'm keeping the insert card. Here are some of my practice pieces using the Enchanted Iris, layered letters, and crafted French stamp sets. I have more than 10 card making ideas using these stamp sets, but there's no time to make them all today. Especially, I really love this card design combining the large letter A and floral images in the background. Since the amazing new stamp set is released in last January, I'm going to save this design for future use. Please let me know in the comment section if you want to see how I'm going to watercolor this card, then I'll make sure to make a video tutorial for you later. For today's project, I'm going to use the Enchanted Iris stamp set and Crafty Friends stamp set. These flowers are a delight to color with any medium, and I decided to color them with my favorite coloring medium, which is watercolors. I'm going to use Artist Cold Press 140-pound watercolor paper, which has textured rough paper. I'm cutting down my watercolor paper into slightly larger than A2 card size using Timo's paper trimmer. This trimmer is one of my favorite paper crafting tools. It cuts paper like butter. I'm placing my watercolor paper over the foam pad inside the mini Misty stamping tool and using 3 magnets to hold my paper in place. I'm going to pull out flowers and leaves from the Enchanted Iris stamp set and position them on my paper. Once I'm happy with the placement, I'm going to close the Misty cover so all the stamps are stick to the cover. I'm prepping my watercolor paper with EK Success embossing powder tool as I'm going to heat emboss the images using white embossing powder. Here I have brand new embossing powders from Altenew. There are no Altenew brand labels on the containers as they are prototypes. I'll ink my stamps with the first mark watermark ink and close the door and press it down over the watercolor paper. The stamping impression is supposed to leave the only watermark of the images, but I realized that I didn't clean the stamps very well from my previous stamping while I tested out the stamps. So I got black stamped images. I still can hit emboss the images with white embossing powder, but I kind of like the subtle black outlines. So I decided to try no-line watercoloring, which I always feel intimidated. I'm going to search for iris illustration on Google. This is one of my ways to find a color reference when I color florals. It gives me an idea what color combo I should use for my images and where to add shading on the images. So I'm going to use this illustration and use purple, yellow, and green as my primary colors. I'll be taping down my watercolor paper on the chipboard using washi tape. This will help prevent my watercolor paper from warping while watercoloring. It's now time for watercoloring. I'm going to use the Mijello Mission Gold 36 watercolor set and round paintbrush number 2. I'm going to mix my paint with clean water on my watercolor palette and load my paint with pinkish purple color. Then I'm going to test out the color on a scrap paper to see the actual color. I'm going to apply pigment on my flower petal and wash my paintbrush and remove the excess water. Next, I'm going to go over the paint to diffuse the color using a wet paintbrush. While the color of paint is still wet, I'm going to add more pigment for darker hue to add dimension and shading. After applying the color on my dry watercolor paper, I'm going to soften the hard edges using a moist paintbrush before the paint is completely dry. I'm going to darken the value of watercolor by adding layers of the same colors. I'm going to paint another layer before the previous layer is dry. If you let the paint dry between applications, you'll be able to leave a harsh line between layers, which looks cool as well. The important watercolor technique to remember when working with watercolors is that you are working from light to dark. When you apply a dry, more saturated stroke, you can put in color with just water. This watercolor technique is a great way to show light source or edge. I'm applying a stroke using a very little water and more pigment. I'm going to take a wet paintbrush and pull the color out from the darker stroke. You can pull the color quite far depending on how dry that initial stroke is. This does take lots of time, but the results will be worth it. Now I'm going to turn on some music and speed up the process so you can watch me color. As you can see here, I have some paint went outside of outline. You can leave just like that if you want to, but sometimes you need to erase your watercolor. You can lift away color to correct the mistake or adjust the lighting in your project. I'm going to paint in the shape I'd like to lift out using clean clear water. Then I'm going to dab away the water with a paper towel. To add some interest to my watercolor card, I'm going to use the splatter watercolor technique. This technique is a bit random, but you can create some very fun results. So I strongly recommend you to give it a try if you haven't done so. I'm going to dry my watercolor panel using heat tool to speed up the drying time. I'm going to cut down my watercolor panel into 4¼ inch by 5½ inch using Timo's paper trimmer. I made an A2 size top folding card out of Nina Solo White 80-pound cardstock. Then I'm going to mount my watercolor panel on the card base using double-sided tape. I'll be using the Crafty Friends stamp set to add my sentiments. I designed this set for all you card makers out there. This set is packed with fun phrases paired with sentiments of encouragement and companionship in a trendy mix of fonts. After lining up my 2 sentiment stamps, I'm going to ink up the stamps with Altenew black ink and stamp them on my card front. I'm going to finish off my card by adding more paint splatters. Do you think I added too much paint splatters? I'm not sure if this card would look better without paint splatters. After I completed my watercolor card, I played with a layered leather stamp set. I made tons of clean and simple mini cards using the same design. I thought this mini card would be perfect to be included as an extra treat when I sent handmade cards to my friends. This layered leather stamp set became my favorite I've ever illustrated. I'm sure I will reach for again and again. That's all for today. If you have any questions, please leave comments below and I'll be happy to answer them for you. If you like my video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my YouTube channel so you won't miss any new video from me. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time with another video. Bye bye!